Good afternoon and welcome to the Corporation of the Town of Kirkland Lake meeting of council for March the 20th, 2018. Before we start our meeting, I have a notice to read. Council will hold a special meeting to consider a bylaw to authorize a contract on an interim basis for waste management and residential recycling Tuesday, March the 27th, 2018 at 4:40 at Heritage North. We'll start our meeting with a moment of silence, please. Thank you. We have the approval of the agenda.
I have a motion that's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley. The Council approves the agenda for its regular meeting of March 20th, 2018 with the following amendments. The removal of Gary Alec as a delegation and the removal of Bylaw 18-037, the rezoning of 38 Churchill Drive. We have the addition of Bylaw 18-045, sale of land to St. Andrew Goldfields Limited. The addition of Bylaw 18-046, sale of land to Kirkland Gold Incorporated, and a request for a parade permit from Holy Name Parish for the Public Way of the Cross, and that the two bylaws concerning the interim acting chief administrative officer, Bylaw 18-043 and 18-044, be brought forward for consideration at the beginning of the meeting.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Declarations.
Yes. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? None declared.
So I have a motion that's moved by Councillor Kiley and seconded by Councillor Morgan that Bylaw 18-043, being a bylaw to appoint Wilfred Haas as the interim acting chief administrative officer, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
Discussion. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
And I have a motion that's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that Bylaw 18-044, being a bylaw to delegate administrative powers to the interim acting chief administrative officer, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. So welcome aboard, Wilf, new acting CAO. I want to thank you for stepping up to the plate during these times, and council certainly feel that you're going to do a great job for us. It was certainly a unanimous choice, and again, we want to thank you for putting yourself forth to fill this position.
Thank you for the confidence, and I'll go with the, I think it was one of the astronauts said when he first was about to step on the moon, God, please don't let me screw it up. And I'll go with that. So.
Thank you. Okay. We have petitions and delegations. Lynn Sauer from the 100th anniversary request for letter of support for Frog's Breath. Are you coming forward, Lynn, or welcome? Sure, certainly. Just put one of the mics on that you're going to talk through, please. The green light will come on.
There we go.
There you go.
Oh. Okay. I'm Lynn Sauer. I'm chair of the Kirkland Lake Centennial celebration, and I have with me today Sue Guillemot, who is the chair of the events committee and also our treasurer, and Caitlin McKay from the museum, who is a major supporter of our events. As you probably saw in our letter, we are in the second year of a 3-year phase, and the third year, of course, is 2019, and we're hoping to really kick it off with a good celebration. To date, we've been having smaller events almost every month, and Sue, with her wizardry and the help of town businesses and the help of council, we've managed to stay quite afloat reasonably with the small funds we have. However, I think the old saying that you have to spend money to make money is coming upon us very soon. We want to do a Rib Fest in September, and we also want to do a opening ceremonies, a large gala, if you will, a black and white gala, and it will deal with our opening ceremonies that night, and we'll set the stage for what will follow the other events that we've got lined up that we intend to do. So we do need additional funding at this point for upfront costs of things that we have to commit to. So we have been looking around for funding, and within the community and without. And we've looked at all the different grants that we could apply for, and a lot of them we're not, we don't qualify for them. But the ones that we do, we're going after quite aggressively. So we would like to put a proposal forward to Frog's Breath in the amount right now. We think of about $10,000, but we still have work to do on that. So what we need from them, they tell me, is a letter of support from Town Council and also your CRA number so that we can issue income tax receipts. So that's about where I am, unless you have some questions for us.
Councillor Parker.
I would like to thank the committee for all the efforts going forward. It's an incredible opportunity, and I salute you for everything you do, and you have my full support.
We have some wonderful members.
Certainly do. And certainly, council is behind you 100%. We'd be honored to put together a letter in support of your request to Frog's Breath. And, tonight gives an opportunity for you to visit us, but it also gives us an opportunity to thank you and your committee for all the work that you've been doing in a more formal stage. We often see you going in and out of the town halls fairly regularly, but this gives us a more formal venue to certainly thank you and your committee on all you've been doing on behalf of the 100th anniversary. So thank you.
I'd like to thank you and your staff, too. They've been wonderful.
Thank you.
We need that letter.
Yeah, we have.
I have a resolution that's moved by Councillor Kiley and seconded by Councillor Morgan. The council supports the request from the 100th Anniversary Committee in their application to the Frog's Breath Foundation.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. And your letter, you'll, okay.
I'll be in communication with her.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, the next presenter is Kirkland Lake Taxpayers Association. And it's Patrick Adams.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Patrick Adams. I'm the spokesperson for the Kirkland Lake Taxpayers Association. To start, we're just going to go over the role of staff and council outlined by the Municipal Act. So Section 227 of the Municipal Act sets out the role of the officers and employees of the municipality to implement council's decisions and establish administrative practices and procedures to carry out council's decisions, to undertake research and provide advice to council on the policies and programs of the municipality, and to carry out other duties required under this or any act and other duties assigned by the municipality. Role of council, Section 224 of the Municipal Act, to represent the public and to consider the well-being and interests of the municipality, to develop and evaluate the policies and programs of the municipality, to determine which services the municipality provides, to ensure that administrative policies, practices, and procedures and controllership policies, practices, and procedures are in place to implement the decisions of council, to ensure the accountability and transparency of the operations of the municipality, including the activities of the senior management of the municipality, to maintain the financial integrity of the municipality, and to carry out the duties of council under this or any other act. So our budget-focused recommendations for a strong, transparent, and accountable community is investing in leadership, develop a knowledgeable human resources and health and safety, make necessary cuts to non-essential services, reserve fund setup, transparent and detailed budget, and a full forensic audit. Safeguarding and investing in leadership and knowledgeable staff. Reach out to OMHRA for direction. Contract human resources functions to a qualified HR consulting firm specializing in municipal affairs to train and build a competent internal human resource department for the future. With the awareness of current litigation issues faced by the town of Kirkland Lake, a knowledgeable HR department will close loopholes created by council and staff, making ununiformed HR decisions and ensure best practices are adhered to minimize further litigious costs to the corporation and its taxpayers. Health and safety. Developing and adhering to best practices in health and safety ensures occupational health and safety compliancy, higher safety standards equals higher productivity, a healthier workplace, and a more supportive organizational culture. The town of Kirkland Lake's most valuable asset is the staff, and they will be protected. Make necessary cuts to non-essential services. Salary freeze for non-unionized employees and council. Eliminate staff redundancies as identified in the KPMG report. Transfer these employees to positions that are vacant and legislatively required in order to be in compliance. Invest in their training needed to obtain HR designation. Heritage North. Complete a study to determine which option is best for the town of Kirkland Lake. Moving assets to Heritage North and selling off aging infrastructure, or selling the conference center. A conference center is an unnecessary discretionary service. The town of Kirkland Lake should not be competing with local tax-paying businesses. Develop a central booking system to streamline processes across departments and eliminate duplication of services. Parks and recreation cuts. Restructure the recreation committee, including the public, to include the public, such as taxpayers. Individual and group users to review cost effectiveness and make necessary cuts in regards to programming, such as cutting daily shoulder time at the recreational facilities. Is the complex required to operate from 5 to 11 on weekdays? Establishing user fees for free activities in order to establish a repair and maintenance reserve fund for equipment, example, snowshoes, skiing. Eliminate free handouts to some group users, such as waived fees for change rooms and the sports tourism initiative. Reserve fund setup. Establishing and maintaining a reserve fund is imperative to long-term planning. We owe it to future generations to bring back financial stability to our town. It is essential to get out of this economic state of affairs and lay a strong foundation. A policy and public procedure established to ensure reserve funds are used appropriately must be enforced. All reserve fund transactions must be itemized and visible to taxpayers. The Kirkland Lake Taxpayers Association recommends a 0.5 to 1% of tax levy dedicated to a reserve fund. Transparent and detailed budget, strategic planning, and asset management. Include an itemized summary of capital budget expenses, looking at other municipalities such as the City of Kingston, Halton Region, and the town of Kapuskasing are excellent examples of budget transparency. Continue to use a municipal performance measurement program template similar to the one reviewed by previous CAO at the 2018 budget open houses. This yearly report card was a great way to show accountability and the progress in forward planning. This report should also highlight the measures of efficiency, measure the amount of staff time and other income expenditures used to deliver services and effectiveness, measure the extent of which services is achieving its intended result for the taxpayers. A politician thinks of the next election. A leader thinks of the next generation. Revise the asset management plan to ensure it reflects the new developments that has come about in the last 8 months, i.e., non-compliance to health and safety, administrative and provincial laws, master fire plan, etc., and include KMPG recommendations. Show current state of assets and long-term strategic funding planning. Have staff received a clear direction from council in terms of an implementation process of asset management? Our current asset management plan notes that our growing infrastructure deficit is serious and states in part, the infrastructure will continue to widen without corrective action. Which of the recommendations in the current asset management plan have been followed through on? What has the town done on addressing the infrastructure deficit? Has the town adopted a comprehensive asset management strategy? Established a special infrastructure levy to reduce the gap over time? A transparent, up-to-date, and detailed budget, strategic plan, and asset management strategy will help to make the best possible decisions regarding renewal, expansion, and disposal of infrastructure assets and the operations of the town while minimizing risks and costs to the Kirkland Lake taxpayers. Forensic audit. After reaching out to our members and fellow taxpayers, it has become clear that many taxpayers of Kirkland Lake want a full forensic audit. The Taxpayers Association supports this recommendation not because of any fraud accusations, but to seek the answers to why and how we found ourselves in this financial crisis and a starting point to develop the necessary corrective action plan to stop the wasteful spending. Understanding that the money will not come back to the taxpayers with a forensic and/or value for money audit, the Taxpayers Association believes that the lessons learned will pay for itself and provide a direction moving forward, as well as reestablish trust in our elected officials and administration. Many reasons for this recommendations were brought forward. Some included with the high turnover of top-ranking decision-making positions such as 2 CAOs, Director of Physical Services, Deputy Treasurer, Assistant Tax Collector, etc. As well as many councillors announcing their intentions to not seek re-election, there is a need to understand what is going on within the corporation to cause this. The several preventable ongoing and previous litigation issues, suspicions of misrepresentation of funding and misappropriation of grant funding, an audit will remove suspicions of impropriety that some staff have been accused of, while also showing if there is any impropriety going on. Several non-compliance issues, health and safety, fire safety, and other provincial laws. An independent probe into how the Town of Kirkland Lake's administration received orders from council to make some of these decisions that cause such a burden on the taxpayers for years to come is needed. There is a dark cloud looming over our great little town. A full audit will be the big step forward to rebuild trust in our elected officials and administration and bring true transparency and accountability for Kirkland Lake. Leadership is always doing what is needed, not always what is popular. From the Corporation of the Town of Kirkland Lake's 2015 Community Economic Strategic Plan. Thank you for your time and the attention given to these recommendations. For more information, check out our Kirkland Lake Taxpayers Association Facebook page or email us at kltaxpayersassociation@gmail.com. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kiley.
Yes, I'll direct this to the chair. That's the procedural approach. Is that correct,
Yes.
Tony?
Yes, it is.
Just to update the speaker on some of the things that have been going on and what's happening. We do have a manager of HR now on duty, started on Monday. That was certainly a long time coming. And same for the health and safety representative. both of these have been recent hires, so that suggestion has been filled. The reserve fund, I've been harping on this and other councillors as well. One of the suggestions we had, rather than going to 0.5% or 1% on the levy, was to take the revenues from the solar farm and use that solely for set aside in a reserve fund. That way the taxpayer isn't going to have to pay extra.
Oh, that's good. There's a plan.
Yep. Asset management and infrastructure, always an ongoing battle. There's no question about it. We're in the same situation, I think, as many Northern Ontario communities. As we know, we still have pipes in the ground that are 80 years old. This is going to be an ongoing struggle. There's probably $70 million worth of infrastructure that needs to be replaced. And I know Sudbury had, they had done their asset management plan, and they need $900 million to replace their decaying infrastructure. So some of the reserves, I think, could go towards that part of it. The forensic audit, I think this all started mostly around the construction of the pool. The pool's not finished, and the bills and reconciliation of the costs for it aren't complete yet. I guess I do have trouble spending $50,000. If you want $50,000. If you want a full audit of the town, you're talking a heck of a lot more than $50,000. And first of all, we're not in a position to put that kind of money out without throwing it back onto the taxpayer. And secondly, with the pool construction and civic not being totally reconciled, I think that's something we should look at down the road. It may go into the next council. But appreciate your input today. I just want to give you a bit of an update as to where we're at.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Morgan.
Thanks very much, Patrick. Certainly, we appreciate the concerns and the suggestions, and that's when it comes to how the town deals with money issues and finances and whatnot, and those kinds of things. That is absolutely, the public's right to make those suggestions. I mean, those are opinions at the end of the day. I mean, and that's one of the things that can be very challenging around the council table, where we all have different opinions on different things. And I happen to share a lot of the same opinions that you do. But at the end of the day, we have to sit here as 7 individuals representing the taxpayers and come to a vote on how we move forward. The one thing, though, that I will talk a bit more about is there's a lot of insinuation in this document that somehow council is being nefarious in covering up certain activities. And you're asking here for a full forensic audit, but you're talking about employees. And I think, Patrick, you know yourself in your position that when individuals leave the corporation, oftentimes there's confidentiality agreements attached to those departures.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, there's very little that we can speak to about those individuals.
Yep.
And the circumstances surrounding their departure, whether they left of their own accord or whether for some other reason. But to suggest that somehow council is aware of certain activities and we're not acting on them, or we're not in the process of acting on them,
I find offensive. And I do take exception to that. And the rest of the councillors can speak for themselves, but if there's something that we're not aware of, that you're aware of, we certainly would like to hear it.
No.
But we have spent countless hours over the last 2 years dealing with numerous issues. And I can't really speak more than that about it.
Okay.
And I can assure you that at the end of the day, I think my fellow councillors will agree with me that we are all here for the right reasons. We are here to do what's right for the community. And I would strongly suggest that this type of suggestion be removed from future correspondence.
Is there, can you want to be specific on the?
I just explained to you, Patrick, that I
know you
can't be
did.
specific.
Okay.
Because
but role of council, like administrative policies, you guys are responsible for overseeing administrative policies that the staff have to roll out.
You're absolutely right.
And when there's litigation issues, punching holes in these problems, it's not the role of the staff. It's
Well, we don't.
the other hand.
But you're
just-
making that assumption,
I'm not
Patrick.
making the assumption. I'm looking at the role of council under section 224. At the end of the day, you have to work together. And
And we
I'm
do.
just,
And we do. We have some absolutely stellar employees in this organization.
Absolutely.
And we are on the verge of some absolutely, probably the biggest boom that Kirkland Lake has seen since before the 60s.
Yes, I'm excited
And-
for that.
But I resent the fact that you're making the insinuation that council is somehow covering up or is trying to stifle our staff or trying to do something contrary to the Municipal Act, when in fact I can assure you, well, I don't need to assure you, I can tell you that me personally and the rest of my councillors can speak for themselves, but there's no truth in that whatsoever.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Barker.
Thank you for coming in, Patrick, and your presentation. I did want to commend the Taxpayers Association with the way they handled things on Facebook and in the media in general, and when dealing with individuals. You keep it very polite and positive, and in this day and age, you don't see that very often. I'd like to commend you for the professionalism conducted. If there's anything derogatory put on the Facebook page, you do address it and have them explain things a little more, or you have individuals look into the insinuations further to get the answers, but do it in a professional and positive manner, and I would like to commend you and the organization for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. And I'm just going to briefly say, just to further talk about the reserves, is as Councillor Kylie said, there is certainly some interest in directing the revenue from the solar, and the revenue is just not for us. This is revenue that would be directed for the next 18 years.
That's good.
The solar is very heavy. It's not where we get the money right now and we spend it, and then the next 18 years the people of Kirkland Lake have to look after this. It's just the opposite of that. And what we're also looking at is not only directing some of that into capital reserves, but we're also looking at a percentage of that going into reserves so we can tackle some of the accessibility situations that our assets are presenting to us. We're certainly anxious to get a accessible washroom at the town hall. We're certainly anxious to make sure the elevator going up and down is here. We're spending, I believe, close to $300,000 at the complex, so the elevator can take people downstairs into the working area. But we are heading towards these things, and we just want to thank you for coming tonight and
Thank you.
making your presentation.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, Mike, you're the next presenter. Welcome and come aboard.
I'm Mike Romaine. I live at 876 Governor Road West, and I'm not as fancy as Patrick. I don't work with the computer. Also, I'd like to say that these are my own views and not associated with the Taxpayers Association. So this is my own twist on things. I believe that the town has to look at where we spend our money and start slowing down the spending a little bit. One area of my concern is the animal control. We contract it out. The town gets no revenue from it. I understand that the revenue that does come in pays for some of the things that have to be done at the dog control, but with the onslaught of social media, when someone finds a dog outside now, they bring it in their house, 25, 30 minutes with Facebook, it's back to their owner. That's just my thought about the animal control. With our staff, I believe we need to invest in our own people and train them to where they should be. Whether it's online schooling to help them further their career, increase their knowledge. But I believe that we do have good staff, and sometimes it could be, you know, a 2 or 3 month online course, and that person can jump a level up and be more qualified for their position. And I believe that it's easier to train a person with a good attitude, which is something I heard recently, than it is to have a person trained with a bad attitude. Because that bad attitude brings on to everyone else around them. The other thing, I believe the museum, and I'm going to get stabbed in the back for this, I'm sure, but I believe we need to cut hours, especially the winter months. I understand that people do rent it out, but we can allocate people to look after that. But the winter months, especially Monday to Friday, you know, maybe open on weekends. Summertime's a different thing. It's more tourism. And again, March break and Christmas, you know, maybe we could open it up for that time when we have other people in town. The airport decertifying, I'm fully a supporter of that. I see it's on the agenda later. Patrick touched on essential booking. I believe in that too, whether it's here at Heritage North or at Town Hall, but we're paying lots of staff, you know, there's staff at the complex, there's staff at Town Hall, there's staff here, and if we had a central booking place where the girl can, or guy can look at the computer and say, okay, you want to book at the complex, you want to book the Blue Room? Yeah, it's available this time. Oh, okay, that's not available. Well, let's look at Hockey Heritage North. You still need a room that big? Well, we can do it here. And not that I want to cut people, but it's something that in our state where we are right now, I believe that we have to really look at how we can save money with our staff and push them into different places. The reserve fund, I believe, is very important, and I had marked down that maybe we could use the solar money, and Pat Kiley had noted that that's what you guys were thinking, and it's a great idea. I'm a full supporter in that. And the other thing is non-compliance with buildings and building permits. The previous CAO noted that there was only 84 building permits taken out in 2 years. And I know someone that's pulled probably 45 of those. And there's been lots of building going on. We have 2 building centers in town, and they're flourishing. Where's all this building money going, and why isn't the town getting the permit money for it? And not to say that I haven't done it, but it's it's a thing now that I'm looking back going, okay, I should have helped the town out by buying that building permit when I did what I did. And if the town isn't going to do anything about these things, who's to say that next year someone's going to build a 10,000 foot or 10,000 square foot garage and not get a building permit. Just all of a sudden one day you go by and like, oh, where did that come from? And from what I was told, the litigation part of it is the main cost, but at some point we have to take control over it. And the next thing is our equipment. I believe that we should start using our equipment between departments when possible. One big thing is lawnmowers. We have 2 or 3 riding lawnmowers in town, and you know, this group uses it for this one, and this one uses it for that one. Why can't we just have one and they do everything? Cross department is an easy way to save some money and not have to buy equipment. That's all my points that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for that. Just to follow up on one of your on investing in our own staff. You know, I've been around here for about 15 years, and I can tell you that this community has invested heavily in their own staff. It's been only the past 6 or 7 months that deviation has been made. We had many staff, younger staff, waiting to go on courses, waiting to better themselves, looking forward to taking some home courses so they could better develop themselves in certain positions that were identified as lacking for a number of years. And it's been only the past 6 months that we've deviated away from that, and we brought in new staff. They all didn't work. But now I see us heading back towards where we were at the beginning, and that's investing in our own staff, to continue to invest in our own staff. And it's unfortunate we lost a few good staff, but we believe we're righting the ship, and we have to, we've certainly been behind our staff for as long as I can remember, and we are heading back into that direction as well.
Okay, perfect.
Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, Mike, I think that's a real good point about, and Tony, about the training. That was certainly identified in the master fire plan, that money had to be spent in that area, and it's certainly in negotiation or consideration as we do the 2018 budget this year, because it has to be done and continued to be done.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next presenter is Cheryl Lafreniere from Kirkland Lake Public Library. Welcome, Cheryl. You get to come up to see us usually about once a year and present your budget, so welcome. Maybe you could start over again, Cheryl. You're not.
Oh, there.
You're live on YouTube, but you have no volume.
Okay. So I just say I'm Cheryl Lafreniere, and I'm here. I work at the Centennial Public Library, and I'm the CEO, head librarian. Oh. Can you hear me now? Okay. So I'm here on behalf of the Kirkland Lake Public Library Board to present the 2018 operating budget. So I'd just like to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. We have 2 full-time staff, including myself, and 5 part-time staff, and we're open 42 hours per week. So the library is all about shared resources, and that's through our physical collections, which are available to local residents, consisting of approximately 45,000 books and 4,000 DVDs and audiobooks. We are also a member of the OLS North and VDX Consortia, which means we share resources with other public libraries across Ontario, which gives members access to another 10 million books, movies, or audiobooks. So if we don't have what you're looking for in our library, we are sure to get it from another library at no cost to you. Centennial Public Library also has a substantial digital collection, and those are our e-books, our e-audiobooks, our e-magazines, and our streaming video collection. And that can all be found on our website under e-resources. And Centennial Library is also about encouraging lifelong learning and building community. And we do that through our adult programs, our children programs, our collaboration with local organizations like the Ontario Earlier Years, public schools, and daycares. And also, the library plays a role as the community's living room, a comfortable place for people to sit and read, to work, socialize, use our computers, and use the library's free Wi-Fi with their own laptops, or borrow one of our tablets if they wish to use in-house. So just some of the facts that between 2016 and 2017. And so as you can see, with the exception of technology, one-on-one classes, everything else has increased. Our circulation is up by 3%, and we are up 52% in our e-downloads. Our computer bookings have increased by 54%, so that means that not everyone has access to a home computer, and if they do, they probably don't have internet at home. Our children's programs and attendance has increased by 63%. So more children are utilizing the library services more than ever. And as I left, we had well over 30 children in our library when I was coming here. Also, you can see we signed up 333 new members, and that's 61% of our population has a library membership, so I think we do pretty good. So over the past year, our staff and I have been very busy reconfiguring the library to accommodate our new cafe area, which was made possible with a $10,000 donation in memory of a previous mayor. This was a huge undertaking. Stacks needed to be moved along with collections. Painting was necessary because once the stacks were moved, the walls were dingy. And once this was done, new furniture was purchased, so we purchased 2 bistro tables and chairs and some new leather seating chairs. And the walls in the children's department were painted because over the past 10 years, it was necessary to create a more user-friendly space for programming. So the whole layout in the children's department was reconfigured for this purpose. And this was done with the help of staff and family members coming in on weekends to paint, weed, shift shelving units, and do dump runs. There are times the children's department is so over capacity that we have very limited space to sit everyone for some of our programs, so they're basically sitting on the floor. So we'll fit them wherever we can. Another new change to the library was the acquisition of a new ProScan 3000 microfilm reader. And this was only made possible with the help from the genealogy group in our community who spearheaded this task. And they have generously donated over $24,000 to date. So we're so blessed to have them, to have their support. And with the help of an $8,000 grant from the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport, we were able to purchase our e-resources, STEM technology, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, as well as a movie license. So now we are able to show movies at the library. We purchased new movies and some audiobooks. And we created a makerspace in order to house all of our new STEM technology. So now let's take a look at the library's budget proposed for 2018. And as you see, the library board is presenting a responsible budget. We're not asking for anything more than what it takes to run our library as the status quo. As you'll see, the library board is asking for a total of $259,974 from the municipality. And this is an increase of $28,129 from last year. But the increases you see are mainly in salary and benefits, and those are mainly attributed to the increase in the Ontario's government minimum wage hike. I would also like to point out that you'll see increases in operations, and that is due to the lease of a new photocopy machine. The one we had was so outdated, and we were constantly contacting someone to come and fix it. And we also have increases in snow removal, our support for the library's operating system, and utilities. So those are things that are beyond our control. So and then on a final note, I would just like to point out that library services cost the taxpayers approximately $68 per household. And this averages out to $5.67 per month. I think you get a lot of bang for your buck. So in conclusion, on behalf of the Kirkland Lake Public Library Board, we would like to mention that the library could not manage this without your support from council, as well as the many donors who support the public library. So thank you. And that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you, Carol. Or Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Councillor Kiley.
Good presentation, Cheryl. Is it possible to get this presentation? Will it be on the town's
Yeah.
website or the
You-
libraries, whatever?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
sure. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's it?
Thank you.
Questions? Okay, thanks. My job's done.
The next is Joe and Terry Roscoe. Please come forward.
Hello.
Green light on?
Yeah.
Okay, buddy, you got it.
Hello. Thanks for seeing us again. We seem to be almost as regular as you guys here now. What we're here for is at the last meeting in February that we attended, there was considerable funds that were coming due. At the end of February, we did come up with half of those funds, and the other funds, half was to be paid for by the end of March. What we're asking is to extend that into April. The only reason, with us paying a certain amount by the end of March, the reason being is we made the decision, one, we had to keep our operations going, and as you know, the winter is very crucial to the logging operations. We had a very good winter. So what we did is, because we only had limited number of trucking power, we downloaded poplar and white birch into our mill yard. And let me explain that. The poplar and white birch is a byproduct of our logging operation. We do not rely on it for our normal revenue or anything, but it's there, and we produce it as we're harvesting for the sawmill. So in order to accomplish our goals, we need to bring a certain amount of wood into the yard. So we were successful in, we had a good season that we kept the mill running at full production, and we have a good stockpile ahead. And we have enough of the byproduct to cover the town. As we attempted to pledge that volume, and the town is not in the wood business, and I understand that. It's not a problem. But now that it's in the mill yard, it's accessible, and we will deliver that in April, and the funds will be forwarded to the town at that time. At the same time, it's all of our own funds, which we didn't have to go out and borrow or do anything like that, which puts us in a much stronger position and makes us healthier as a corporation to continue in the town for the next 20 to 40 years, I hope. So that's where we're sitting at today. If anyone wants to come and take a look at what it looks like, but the yard is full. It's completely full.
Wilf, were you going to speak?
When the Roscoes brought forward this proposal, normally we take a fairly strict position on it. The fact is that they have made the payments that they said they would, and with the breakup in the bush, there is to be expected that there's going to be some dislocation as to what their efforts, where they can be focused on. In terms of budgetary process, we are still going through that, so an extension into April from our perspective is a doable one. Still to be the the hard person we're supposed to be. I will say that, you know, we encourage that the payments as pledged will be made by the end of April. Otherwise, we do have to bring back to council to consider what the alternatives will be. But they have done very well in keeping their terms, and so it has administration support.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, I agree with what Wilf is saying, and certainly you did make a substantial payment recently. I do support the extension. I can't emphasize how important it is from a budget standpoint for the town that we receive those monies. Otherwise, we're going to be in a fix for sure. So, as I say, I would support it, but let's make sure this happens, Joe. I'm not trying to browbeat you.
I would encourage anyone to come take a look, actually, to see the amount. And just for your own information, what's sitting in the as the mill yard is only 1/3 of what we have sitting at roadside. Some are roadside in the bush. So we did do extremely well, and we're sitting in a very, very, very good position finally. But all of Northern Ontario really needs winters like we had. Like this is what we've had before, and this is what makes it. And the market also has improved dramatically. If this was a year ago, I wouldn't be able to do what we did. But things fell into place for a change.
No. I think we appreciate the fact you are making every effort to make this happen. So we want to see it happen, that's for sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, thanks very much, Terry and Joe, for coming tonight. I think by coming here and continuously updating council and making good on your promises, I think you're giving us the comfort we need to be able to extend this. You know, under different circumstances, I think we would probably be less inclined, but I think based on what we've seen in the recent past, I think our comfort level is there, and I think I'm supportive of this. So.
Yeah. Certainly, just to further what Councillor Morgan and Councillor Kiley spoke to, you know, you're certainly, as I say every time, you're certainly fighters, and I always look at it that you've never been so close to being successful, you know, and yet it's never been so close to being unsuccessful. But I certainly want to say how much this council appreciates, as Councillor Morgan said, you coming forward and face to face and requesting these. I'm certainly in supportive of your request for extension, and I believe if that's going to come back as a bylaw later in the meeting. So I don't know if any other councillors. Well, thank you very much, and I will take you up on that offer. I'll get by tomorrow, and I'd love to see all that wood back there.
Yeah, and actually, if anyone, we could make arrangements to take you out. It's a beautiful time to be in the bush, and we have 60% more than what's sitting in the yard, or wow. Sure, I say 2 times more than what's sitting in the yard. We got it went very well.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 5 on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes and recommendations.
Motion that's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley. The council accepts the minutes of the following meetings. The special public meeting held February 27, 2018. The Kirkland Lake Police Services Board held March 5th, 2018. The special public planning meeting of council held March 6, 2018, and the regular meeting of council held March 6, 2018.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Reports of municipal officers and communications. Wilf, you're going to come and speak on the item A, 2017 Summary of Allowances, Mayor and Council.
No, sir.
No?
I would like if the clerk could speak to that.
Okay.
She has a familiarity with the file right now.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah, exactly.
Okay. So as required by the Municipal Act every year by March 31st, the Treasury Department is supposed to publish what the Mayor and Council's allowance of travel and expenses have been. So this has been posted on our website as part of our agenda, and I have a motion to accept it. Please from council. So it is moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded. Certainly.
Certainly.
Just one comment, Joanne. In the previous CAO's preliminary budget presentation, under council expenses, he had included a substantial amount of monies that for waived or discounted fees and whatnot, and they were being grouped in with council costs. Can that be removed and put into a separate line? I did ask that at the meeting that that came up, because it shows that council is getting a 28% increase in pay, which is not the case.
I believe in the detailed budget part, it is spread out.
It is, okay.
It
That's
has
what
its own separate line item.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what I wanted to see.
Okay.
Thank you.
These ones, just so you know, are only 2017, and even though the part that from DSAB and the health unit, those do not come out of the town of Kirkland Lake's budget. Those are paid to the councillors from those respective boards. So it's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan. The council accepts the 2017 summary of allowances for mayor and council as presented.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Next one.
Signing authority.
Signing authority, this is something that we have to do when some of our senior staff leave and change over. So we're asking to bring it back. We will be putting in the interim chief administrative officer as one of the signing authorities, and also another statutory duty is the clerk, and that it was suggested that the clerk also be listed in here. So we're asking council to accept this policy, and it's a resolution that is moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that council approves the signing authority policy dated March 20th, 2018 as presented.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Oh, yes, Councillor Morgan.
Just a question to the clerk. Joanne, at some point in recent history, the notion floated up that our signing authority beyond like checks within the organization needed to be updated. Is that part of this, or will that be coming forward at a future meeting?
That'll be coming forward, and that is all of the authority that is given to all
Right.
staff members from council, whether it be from council actually or from the different acts. So there are certain responsibilities that the clerk has, that your chief building official has, that your fire chief has, and we will be putting that all in one bylaw, so that if you want to know who has what authority, it can all be found.
Right, because I think that was, we found for whatever reason, that was jamming things up a little bit, and so we're looking after that then.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So all in favor? Thank you.
Okay, the next item, we have a request from, it came in late, and I didn't want to pass it up, and this was from the Holy Name Parish. They do this every Easter. It is a Way of the Cross parade, so council has to grant them permission to do the parade. They start at Holy Name Church at 11 a.m. and they do their route all the way through to the Assumption Church, which is usually about 1 o'clock. So I have a resolution that is moved by Councillor Kiley and seconded by Councillor Morgan. The council approves the request from Holy Name Parish for a parade permit to hold the Public Way of the Cross on Friday, March the 30th, 2018, beginning at 11 a.m.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Okay, and the next item that I have, this is concerning the animal control contract, which expires at the end of this month. Our contract that we did originally sign with Tracy Barb does give the option to renew for an additional 3 years if both parties are agreeable. With the 2018 budget deliberations going on right now, we feel that we have the need to assess all services that the town offers altogether. So my request to council and our recommendation is that this contract be extended until July 2018, and then we'll have it reassessed at that time after the budget has been set.
Comments or questions?
No, Jim has.
Oh, Jim? Yes, please, Councilor Roman.
No, just a quick question. With regards to the option to renew, does it have to be a 3-year term, the renewal? Or can it be like a 1-year renewal?
We can do 1 year. It's an option that's in the last bylaw that we passed, the last agreement. Tracy Barb is agreeable to look at whatever we have, so I'm sure 1 year, if that's the way the
Okay,
council
no, I
wants
just
to
wasn't
go.
sure if it was written that it had to be a 3-year extension.
It's an option, so we do not have to follow through on an option if we don't want to.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Kiley.
Yeah, in line with what Councillor Roman was saying, if we did go the 3-year contract, is there the availability of council being able to cancel the contract within 60 days or?
There's a 90-day cancellation
90
clause on
okay.
it. Yes,
Okay, thank you.
that's a bylaw that'll come back.
Okay. Okay. Okay, item 6.3 is town planner request for input to KL Gold Mine closure plan. Ashley?
Good evening. So this one's a relatively easy one from me. We received the KL Gold Mine closure plan. It came addressed to Joanne, and I ended up taking a look at it, and it basically is the same thing that was presented at council as part of the rezoning application. So it has to do with the shaft and the ancillary structures that are being installed on the property. The majority of the issues were dealt with through that rezoning process, so I didn't feel it necessary to submit comments to the ministry on our behalf. Is there any questions on that one?
Councilor Morgan?
Ashley, just I picked up on some of the wording in your report, and it mentions the lakeshore part of the project. Is there any changes at all to that side of the project? Because I think the original closure plan was all encompassing.
It is, yeah.
But I'm guessing that that is all being left the same?
Yeah, from what I could read in the closure plan itself was that it was pertinent only to the shaft and the structures that were happening, the tailings at the top and the pit and quarry.
Okay.
That's all I could get out of it, so.
Okay, just wanted to, because I wasn't sure if maybe they were making some further improvements to like Kirkland Lake?
Not on
or...
surface that I could see.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, another... That'll come back. That's information. Okay. Okay, so item B.
So the second report I have for council's consideration is a request to stop up and close a portion of laneway that's located to the south side of 69 to 109 Federal Street. So this came as a request during in-camera last meeting, and it was a gentleman interested in purchasing a portion of the laneway to the rear of his property with the intent of constructing a garage. At this point, what we want to do is see whether or not council is interested in declaring that land surplus and available for sale for the remainder of the residents in that area as well. So what I'll do is, if this gets passed tonight, I will be sending a letter to all of the neighboring property owners along that strip to see whether or not there's any interest in them selling or purchasing that property from us.
Okay, and just a quick question, Ashley, on that is, people only have an opportunity to buy behind their own property, right?
Mm-hmm. So if there's, in this case here, there's only residents on the, actually I could probably pull it up, but it might take me a bit to figure out. The residents are only on the south portion of Federal Street, and then there's I forget which building's right behind it. Anyways, there's an opportunity for both parties to buy half of the laneway so that it's fair all the way through. I should mention that there's no services within that laneway. There's no reason for the municipality to retain ownership of that.
But I wouldn't be able to buy a property behind your house, say?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, and that'll come back as a bylaw?
Mm-hmm.
And item C, request to decertify the Kirkland Lake Airport.
Yes, so this As everyone's aware, I have been discussing things with council and with the public in regards to the decertification of the airport. Just to give you a little bit of background, we do operate a federally regulated and certified airport. It is not a mandated service. We aren't legislatively responsible for having this service. Business users such as Kale Gold, Alamos Mine, Delshin Therapeutic use this service. We've got emergency, non-emergency patient transfer. That's our biggest user. There's also mining exploration surveyors, the M&R, hydro, and some private plane operators that utilize the airport on an annual basis. The revenues associated with the airport make up approximately half of the $250,000 operating budget. That does exclude capital, so at this point that $250,000 isn't taking into account the capital expenses that are related to the airport. I had our economic development officer run the economic advantages to having the airport, and we totaled that at about $20,000 a year. And that would be things like the hotel stays and the restaurants and the shopping in town that it brings in. As for history of the airport, it was originally opened in around 1975. It's always been municipally owned and operated. There were provincial federal dollars available to the construction of airports in the 1970s for economic development purposes. In the mid-1980s, Nor-Ontario was developed as part of ONTC. So they had provincial dollars placed into the airport as well. They offered daily return flights throughout Northern Ontario and Toronto. Shortly thereafter, there was a hangar constructed by Airedale Limited, which housed the Twin Otter aircraft owned by Nor-Ontario. They also did the maintenance related to the aircraft in the hangar at that time. Winter maintenance during those years was also fully contracted out, so we didn't have municipal staff out there doing that winter maintenance. In '94, we received a one-time only grant, which was for the airport restructuring. So at that point, we extended and reconstructed from 75 feet wide to 3,500 feet long. Sorry, 75 feet wide by 3,500 feet long to 100 feet wide by 4,500 feet long to accommodate the Dash 8 aircraft, which is what we still accommodate today. In '96, they decommissioned Nor-Ontario and gave all the hard services to us. In '97, we were successful in attracting PEMAir, which included daily return flights to Toronto. That service was canceled in '98, so it only ran for about a year. And then in the late 1990s, we received grant money from the province as a way of them decommissioning all of those hard services to us, and now we are responsible for operating. They gave us provincial funding to put towards things that we may need, and we ended up applying all of our money towards winter maintenance equipment. And we are still using that winter maintenance equipment today. So it was purchased in '98, and we are still utilizing that same equipment. Pushing forward a little bit further, in 2008, the government, actually, Transport Canada, went and implemented a safety management system. We are using this system today. It's the same system that's used in Pearson, any certified airport in Ontario. It was a change in culture to transfer proactive safety management to the airport operators, and it results in administrative functions that have become very burdensome. They require significant ongoing investment in human and financial resources to ensure our compliance with that system. Just some quick key operational considerations. It is manned. Our airport is manned during all operating hours, which includes Monday to Saturday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. from May 31st to October 31st, and every day from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. from November 1st to April 30th. So our airport is manned on weekends as well to accommodate for winter maintenance if flights need to go in, get in. The implementation of the safety management system, as I mentioned, is required by all certified airports and has increased the airport's operating and financial burden as a result of requiring staff dedicated to the reporting process, ongoing training, and additional contracted services. We have 2 scheduled landings via chartered services on a weekly basis and approximately 500 to 600 flights annually. The majority of private aircraft owners who utilize the airport are non-residents of Kirkland Lake. MNRF is an avid user of the airport, especially during the summer months when they're doing their wildlife management. They also have an agreement with us for fire management as well, in case there's any forest fires. The fuel cell generates revenues. Our in-ground tanks, however, do result in us having to do approximately $6,000 annually of testing. which sort of affects our net revenue. This year was an exception to that rule. We sold a lot of fuel, which you do see in the operating from last year. I do not expect that to happen again this year, but it was certainly a nice year last year. There is a significant amount of capital upgrades and costs associated with ongoing operations of the airport, and these were brought up several times in the past. And I had listed a few in the report: winter maintenance equipment, hangar garage doors, constant current regulator, upgrades to lighting, and the replacement of the fuel tanks. So during the public stakeholder meeting that was held on January 11th, the general consensus was that the airport could be decertified, but must remain operational on an annual basis in order to accommodate those medevac flights. So the public and medical health agencies stress the importance of being able to access medevac flights in emergency situations. So that's something I do want to push forward to you guys as a recommendation, that if we do proceed with decertification, it continue to operate on an annual basis. Other municipalities of similar size with municipally run airports are starting to proceed with decertification as a result of that administrative overload. Cochrane and Iroquois Falls, for example, have decertified. Earlton currently does remain certified at this time. So it is important to note that the only effect this has on the operation of the airport, so if we do decide to decertify, is the inability to attract scheduled flight service such as Porter, Bearskin, or Air Canada. So at this point, we likely would not see a change at all in terms of the people coming in and using the airport. From a safety perspective, it's our full intent to continue monitoring and following that SMS system. It's just, it eliminates the need to continue conversations with Transport Canada on the reporting, and it reduces that burden a little bit. So in terms of the options, I did originally present 5 options during the public meeting. I'm not presenting 4 or 5 options to council. I'm providing you 2, to maintain the certified status of the airport or to decertify the airport. So maintaining the certified status, we do have to do $10,000 annual audit, and we didn't complete it last year with the thought that we would look at decertifying this year. So that would mean a $20,000 hit on our budget this year as a result of that. Staff time to implement the safety management system as we're doing right now, and ongoing training initiatives as we have new staff that are in these departments that need to be trained fully to take that accountable executive role. It's recommended that if we do go with the maintained certified status, that we will need to look at increasing user fees and lease agreements in order to modify them a bit to reflect the actual cost of operation and reduce that burden on the taxpayers. If we decide to decertify, we can certainly look at it as a budgetary overview to reduce the manned hours at the airport. So there's option for further savings, not just the audit and the training, but potentially reducing the level of service at the airport. There would be no need for annual audits, and the regulations pertaining to decertified airports are a little bit more lax. Again, I want to stress that the safety remains the same. It's still going to be our intent to ensure that the safety of the airport is maintained. And just to put a little number to it, I could see there's a possibility there of reducing the operating budget by approximately $100,000 annually, depending on what you want to do. Like that's the best case scenario, would be reducing the operating by about $100,000. So I'm willing to take questions at this time.
Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, Ashley, just to clarify a couple of things. The 500 to 600 flights annually, that's departures and landings, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Also, in the late 1990s, do you recall or do you, what the amount that we received? I know you weren't here.
Yes, 10 probably.
And was all that money put back into capital, or did they use it for operating as well?
I believe we put it to winter maintenance, but my understanding is that it was actually used to carry us forward for a few years. So it wasn't just a strictly capital, it was capital plus operating for a few years. I think we ran out in 2007 or 2008 or something. Was it yours?
That was my understanding too, from previous discussions at the administration. They built up what they could, and then they used some to defray the cost for operating as long as they could.
Okay.
So I should say that user fees were only implemented in the year, I think it was mid-2000s. So before that, we weren't operating with user fees at all. It was fully tax funded.
You're not sure of the amount?
No, not off the top of my head.
Councillor Morgan.
Thanks, Ashley. Just wanted to clarify 2 things. One, the savings that we're talking about are really isolated to operating costs, right?
For the most part.
Right. And the capital expenditures, whether we buy new equipment or resurface the runway, those are items that we probably still have to look at, right? I mean, because we need to keep this airport in a you know, a reasonably high standard, right?
Yes.
I mean, okay.
So I think what I'd like to focus on is the fact that the things we still need to it'd be minor capital costs that are reduced by decertifying. The issue right now is we have Transport Canada coming to look at our runway and auditing us based on the conditions of the runway and the conditions of our lights and making recommendations, and sometimes those recommendations are absolutely mandatory, need to be fixed today. So if Transport Canada comes and tells us that, I have to get that done because I'm a certified airport. Whereas if we're not certified, those rules are still there, but you don't have someone saying, okay, you need to get them done now. You have a little bit more freedom in terms of when you apply those.
There's also issues when, like Ashley said, they've set out a series of orders. Sometimes we have to take the opportunity to say, well, is what you're saying the same as what we're seeing? And so we have additional staff time out there. Then that staff person is doing those kind of measurements or doing all that kind of checks and balance stuff to either prepare for Transport Canada, to respond to Transport Canada, and in the meantime, we bring in additional staff to do the work that that person would have been doing. Some of the stuff is really oriented towards a high-end, high-maintenance, high-traffic airport, not us. But we're still caught in the same boat. And then that staff person comes back and does all the reports and paperwork that comes with it. For example, last summer, we had a couple of issues. I think that instead of one person being detracted from their job, there were 4 of us going through it for additional training sessions, filing all the paperwork and doing that. And it took about another 6-7 days. It was significant drain.
So, yeah, I think I understand, but again, just on behalf of the community, in no way, shape, or form are we jeopardizing the safety at the airport, right? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that was certainly my concern as well, that, because, I mean, I look at decertifying, we're sort of throwing the towel in and saying, hey, you know what, we're not going to get that porter. We're not going to get Bearskin to come in here. And I think that's a reality, and I think that's the reality that those communities that you mentioned earlier who decertified, certainly the hope is still there that our regional airport in Earlton is going to attract, so they remain to be certified. But it's certainly the safety, and I don't believe that, hearing from you today, that that would be jeopardized. You know, our airport has probably never been so important as it is now. With the new shaft going in with Kirkland Gold, they have 2 flights, I believe, every week, coming and going. With the construction of Artisan and the FedEx, you know, these people don't come in by Ontario Northland bus. You know, they fly in their own private. They fly in their own private planes, and we've struggled for so many years trying to get these people to our community. And now that we have them, I think it's so important that the airport become even a more centered place. For years, we operated it for air ambulance. I believe that's still our main concern. Certainly, is the air ambulance. But we also have all these other great things going on. And to know that we have a safe airport, to know that we have an airport that we can operate within our means, and certainly, most importantly, one that meets the needs of all our new industrial people to our community is extremely important. So, you know, I support the decertification, but on the thing that certainly the safety and the standards aren't jeopardized. It's just a lot of the red tape will be put aside, you know. But I certainly support the decertification of the airport. Is that coming back as a resolution?
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley. The council directs the manager of planning and land development to bring a bylaw for consideration to decertify the Kirkland Lake Airport to the April 3rd regular meeting.
All in favor? That's approved. Thank you. Thanks, Ashley. Okay. Oh. So the next item is the Kirkland Lake Solar Project.
Yes, sir. We'll both speak on it because Ashley is much more in tune with the maps, including the one that's incorrect, but than I am. But the solar farm project had quite the history, as we all know. The original locations had been placed on the south side of Archer Drive, and as the project moved forward, there were investigations done, whatever, things had changed. So the first solar farm, number 1, it moved to the north side because of Canadian Malartic had raised issues about developing the area for gold, etc. And that site where it had come from on the south has subsequently been sold to Dancor Construction for the shipping logistical facility that would be going there. I'm just waiting.
Sorry, I'm trying
That's
to
no, that's
get
good.
these for you.
Okay. So what Ashley has put on the map is where everything went. There was, if you look right where it says Archer Drive, directly below that, that is where the solar farm number 2 was supposed to go. Again, Canadian Malartic had raised issues with it. In 2015, it was brought to council to be moved to the north side. So it went up there. Subsequent to that, around 2016, we understand that Cap Energy with the technology partners came, they visited the area, found that there was a dog park there, and that the ground was really bad, and that was on the north side. They had a conversation, to the best of my understanding, with the director at the time, that it should go back to the south. That was not communicated to council or to the rest of us in the paperwork. So off we go. We're back now in 2017, 2018, and we brought everything to council and said, here's the locations. Everything is on the north side. And I get a call saying, no, number 2 is supposed to be south. And if you put number 2 on the south, you're going to save a lot of time, money, and costs, or time, money, and frustration. Frustration from the topography, cost from trying to deal with that topography, as well as lost revenue, because it will extend the time that the work actually has to take place. On the north side, between the dog park and the topography, the expense would be significant. Cap Energy had done an environmental assessment on that south side, and so basically it's up and ready to go if council agrees. Now, one of the big issues with the FIT 3 agreement was that once the PIN numbers were identified, they could not be changed. Well, both sides of the Archer Drive are on the same PIN number, so there's no change to that. It's not going to put the project in jeopardy. From staff's point of view, it'd be nice to keep that area next, and that's Avitas that you see in the corner, to keep that open for additional development. But we have to balance that against the reality that if we proceed with putting KL Solar on the north side, we could be calling in the financial viability of the project as a whole, and I don't think that that is worth it. The south side is already truncated in terms of topography. It's not yet you're going to have a Chrysler factory going there. It will be able to host the solar farm, and it will be able to do that in a much more efficient manner for the corporation. So our recommendation as staff is that we proceed to locate on the south.
Yeah, I think the fact that, what we want to do is we want to locate this project corresponding to the pins, and that does that. But mainly we want to generate as much energy and the least amount of expenses we can. So I certainly would support putting it on the, don't see any real difference. If Archer Drive wasn't there, nobody would even, it wouldn't matter, right?
That's right.
So I certainly support putting it on the south. Councillor Morgan.
Just wondering, Wolf, how much of that entire piece of property to the south of Archer Drive do you anticipate they'll be using? 100% of it, or?
I don't think so, but we need to see a proper or a revised layout for that. Most of it will be further up where, obviously, where it's flatter and that. Ashley, do you have anything to add on that?
So further up, which way is
Sorry,
further up?
towards Archer Drive.
like
The
so-
north side of the south side.
Oh, and
Yeah.
to the west side, or I guess, is that my understanding?
You can see that it gets pretty hilly in the back there behind Avita's.
Okay.
I can't see them going that way, but
Yeah.
we haven't seen the layout for the panels at this time, so.
Just, okay, 'cause just I heard, very late in the game, the concern was raised that if Avitas wants to expand, it looks like that land would probably potentially be available in some sort of a transaction, or?
Yeah, definitely, we're going to have that conversation with Avitas to see
Okay.
what their plans are. 2 years ago, they had talked about something. We haven't really heard anything since then, but that's definitely on the agenda, and we will try to make accommodations accordingly.
Thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan. The council approves the revised location for KL2 Solar Farm south of Archer Drive as presented in the report from the Economic Development and Tourism, acting interim CAO, as presented.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you. Item 5 is the Kirkland Lake Drinking Water System 217 Annual Report. Is that what? Samir, are you presenting that, or? Okay. Okay. Carry on. Okay.
Yeah, Aqua is not here to present this. I don't know whether this is date sensitive. Do you need to have this resolution? Council has been sent this report to read. Should we just put this off until Aqua does come to present it? Yes? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That is deferred.
Item 7, introduction, reading, and consideration of bylaws.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 18-038, being a bylaw to stop up, close, and declare surplus laneway at 69 to 109 Federal Street be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that bylaw 18-039, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute a site plan control agreement with Masad Mardasi at 14 Government Road East, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that bylaw 18-040, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 15-018 by extending animal control services with Tracy Barb until July 31st, 2018, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that bylaw 18-041, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 18-018, extending, suspending notice of termination and forfeiture until the end of April 2018 upon tenants of 35 Archer Drive, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley. Oh, sorry, that's it. Oh, no, I have two more, sorry. Yeah. Moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan, that bylaw 18-045, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute all documents related to the sale of 9 and 25 King George Court to St. Andrews Goldfields Limited, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 18-046, being a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute all documents related to the sale of 13 King George Court and 11 Porteous Avenue to Kirkland Lake Gold Incorporated, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried, thank you.
Okay. That's it for bylaws.
Item 8, notices of motion. Item 9, confirmation bylaw.
It's moved by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Councillor Kiley, that bylaw 18-042, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held March 20th, 2018, be read a first, second, and third time, enacted and passed.
All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Councillors' reports. Just to say that, you know, it was unfortunate. We're facing a waste management situation here in the community, and it was certainly unfortunate that TNR was unable to become compliant with the Ministry of Labor. You know, that was between TNR and the ministry, and you know, it's created some havoc. Staff has been working really hard. You've probably seen the bins located at different locations around town. I'm understanding that there's lots of garbage going in. They're being picked up as they're filled, and we'll continue to do that until an interim collection process is in place. You know, what we're seeing during these unfortunate times is something always good comes about it, and I was really pleased to hear throughout the weekend, and more so even to experience this morning during coffee that people are getting up and they're going to their neighbors and they're seeing if they can help them out with delivering any garbage bags they can to the temporary sites. So you know, it's great to see so many of our community members really striving together and trying to become part of the solution instead of part of the problem. And so I certainly want to commend them, and I want to commend our staff, and I'm hoping that the residents remain patient. Believe you me, our staff is working very hard at this, and there's been a few bumps in the road, but I think it just shows as we spoke to earlier, the caliber of staff that we do have with the community. And I want to thank them for that, and certainly I want to thank all the residents for being so patient and using this as an opportunity to show what this community is all about, and that's helping others when things get tough around town. So I just wanted to thank everyone for that. Councillor Kiley.
Yeah, just to thank all the people that did for the delegations today. There's a lot of considerations in that budget proposal. We will do our best to implement as much as we can. The budget process has been slowed down a wee bit. We will get back on track. We're working on it right now with our staff. They've basically redoing that was originally presented to us, and we hope to have that be able to present in the next couple of weeks. In any event, thank those people that actually come up and did their presentation. It's not always easy to do, and was very professional. Thank you.
Okay, we have the adjournment.
It's moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Morgan. The council adjourns its regular meeting of March 20th, 2018 to an in-camera meeting to discuss one issue concerning identifiable person or persons.
All in favor? It's carried. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Council will go into
yeah, and we'll go into the other room.